Hello everyone, my name is Lou Banks and I am founder of Rising Vibe, and I am bringing you today our second Zoomcast in our series called Another Bloody Tangent. And the reason we've called the series Another Bloody Tangent is that none of us, especially in business and leaders, think in a linear way. We have lots of different thoughts and take lots of different direction around actions in our thinking. And I definitely do that. And I rarely stay on track. I usually go off piste. So just the fact that we're calling it that gives me permission to do it, because I've almost contracted just by the name of this. We are going to start podcasts at the end of the year, but our wonderful PR manager has gone off and had a beautiful little baby. So we're going to wait until she's back. We thought, right, in the interim, let's get cracking. Let's start talking to some brilliant leaders that we know in the world and do some Zoomcasting, which is a new concept that we really think might take off. So, and who cares if it doesn't, we're doing it anyway. And today I'm talking to Michael Ockwell from Mayflower Theatre, Chief Exec at Mayflower Theatre. And we're going to be talking today about leading through the unknown with explicit clarity. So let me just tell you a little bit about Rising Vibe and how that links. So Rising Vibe are culture consultants. So we work with our clients to help them define the culture that they want, or refine it if they've already got something in place. Help them establish where they're starting from in context of where they want to be, and then we design learning and development solutions to move them from A to B. But the thing that we are really passionate about and really focused on is emotion. And you rarely hear emotion and business in the same sentence as a rule, unless you're talking about very positive emotions, passion, drive, motivation. Actually, we're about embracing all emotion in business, because how we feel about something will stop us engaging, will enable us to engage, will resist if we don't engage. So we get underneath how people are really feeling to help them truly learn, engage, and embed whatever it is that the organization wants to happen. And what we know that is going on right now for everybody is the uncertainty is huge. There's a lot of implicit messaging out there. Now, I am not remotely political, and I think the government are doing the best job they can, and I wouldn't want to be doing it. And I also agree that some of the messaging could be a little bit clearer. So all of this unknown is a challenge, especially in business as a leader, when your workforce, your team come to you for answers and you don't have them. However, you can still bring some explicit clarity around the stuff we do know in our own businesses that will help. And we're going to talk about that today. So we know the arts have been impacted hugely by this. I am a big fan of that. I love theatre, I love music, I love cinema. And I'm a big fan of the Mayflower Theatre because I myself live in Southampton. So Michael, thank you ever so much for doing this with us. So just to get us kicked off, I guess, can you tell us a little bit about you, the theatre, the arts in context of this crazy COVID thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been 20 years running regional theatres. I've started out as an actor, and the fact that nobody recognises my face proves how good an actor I was. So I had to go into theatre management. So I've been in theatre. I started at the London Palladium back in '97, and I've been at Mayflower Theatre now for 8 years. Mayflower Theatre is the third largest regional theatre by capacity. It's got 2,270 seats, so it's on the biggest scale you can possibly have. With that comes challenges, but it's a very exciting theatre to run. It's regionally, there's nobody else that does the scale and size of our productions around the South Coast. So we have a very big pool, about 1.9 million people within a 45-minute drive time of Southampton. So, and when you consider Southampton's only 250,000 people, it's actually a very big theatre for quite a small hinterland. We're a not-for-profit, so it's a charity organisation that I work for, which is great. We receive no monies, direct monies, no subvention, no Arts Council support at all. So it does mean that we are 100% reliant on box office income and ancillary spend. So on the 16th of March this year, literally all our income just disappeared out. So the challenges, as you could imagine, has been enormous. And you know, I hear what you're saying, Lou, about that level of uncertainty. And I remember going on that Monday morning, knowing that something was going to happen, but that briefing at 5 o'clock on Monday night, where the Prime Minister didn't even give us a really clear edict. What he said was, we advise people not to go to theatre. And suddenly, you know, literally in that 20-second statement, our world was turned upside down. And I had Welsh National Opera in that week, who were due to start scheduling their performances on the Wednesday, and we suddenly, you know, closed down that operation, and within a week, the theatre, with all its staff, was mothballed. So it's been a real challenge, and I remember somebody once saying to me, you know, the only thing that you don't, the only thing you don't know is the thing you don't know, you know, which is an obvious statement. But at this moment in time, we don't know a lot. And from a planning point of view, with no consultation at the beginning of this process, and I'm with you, I wouldn't want to be Prime Minister of this country at this moment in time. I think there is massive challenges, but I know the challenges that I'm facing in my organisation, I'm having to overcome via communication, because communication is absolutely the key word now in how we impart the knowledge that we have to, especially and most importantly, to our staff.
Yeah. So it's interesting, you know, that we get a lot of our clients will say to us, you know, we need communication to be better, and we just need to communicate more. And that's a very generalized statement, and communication can mean so many things, right? So can you tell us a little bit about the communication that you're doing, delivering in your business that's really helping?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got kind of 4, you know, stakeholders. We've got the staff, who are key to our delivery of our business. We have our audiences, you know, which again, as I say, 100% income generation for us is through box office and ancillary spend. You know, we've got the producers that we work with, you know, who provide all the shows, and we then have our stakeholders, you know, those people that invest, sponsors. And I've been really, hopefully, very clear from the start that I would be really honest and open about what I know and what I don't know. And I think sometimes as a leader, you have more strength by being honest and saying, do you know what, I'm in uncharted territory. So we introduced, as a starting point, in the week before we mothballed the theatre, we introduced the first thing in the morning a staff meeting where everybody that was in the building that day came together, and I spoke to them, and I told them exactly what I knew, what the processes and plans that we're going to put in place, and how we were going to move this forward. And I was, you know, we have values that we run our organisation around, and one of those is integrity. And I think as a business leader, integrity, your word is your bond, and there is no point giving anybody a false hope. I mean, because I think that becomes, we'll maybe talk about radical candour a little bit later on, but that is one of the precepts of radical candour, is actually being honest and open and giving feedback in a proper manner whereby you're wanting to help people. And I had the stance at that stage, and at that time, of course, we didn't know that the retention scheme was going to be in place, is that these were people's lives. I have 245 people that work for me, and I take that responsibility very heavily on my shoulders. And I wanted to make sure that they had a clarity on how we were going to move it forward, and we were going to move it forward together. So that has been the way that we've moved. All the messaging has been as clear and as open as we possibly can. Honestly, if I look at now in the middle of May, if I look at some of the decisions I made in March, they were the wrong decisions, but I made the wrong decision for all the right reasons. It was the knowledge that I had to hand. And again, I mean, I think one of the big key elements as a business leader is to, when you get it wrong, is to say, I got that wrong, put your hands up. I think people trust you more. So yeah, we've had the, like everybody, I mean, you know, we've all had the rug pulled from under our feet here, but the more of a challenge for us working in the entertainment industry is the fact that we are a secondary discretionary spend. People do not need to go to theatre. And at this moment in time, if you're looking at your priorities in life, probably the last thing you think about is whether or not, you know, I'm going to go and see The Lion King at Mayflower in September. So we've had to reprioritize the messaging that we've done to our customers as well, because we've got a lot of people that are very disappointed, but purchasing a theatre ticket is a very emotional transaction, I feel. You know,
definitely.
Now, I would say at this moment in time, the one thing that we should look forward to is being able to come together at some point again and share great art and great culture. But it's way down the line, I think, for people at this moment.
Yeah. So you're the honest, transparent thing, and saying I don't know and I got it wrong is so key and actually quite basic, but so many people don't do it. And I guess as a leader right now, not knowing and getting it wrong, if you want to practice doing that, now's a great opportunity in many ways. Some people are still uncomfortable with it. The one thing I've been asking myself all the way through this is, our business is so small compared to yours, but the pain around, was that the right decision? And then my self-doubt and self-beration about I got it wrong and I should have done that and why did I do that, as I felt that I've done that more to myself for sure. But all I've done is ask myself in the moment, am I doing the best that I can do right now based on what I know? Yeah. Does it feel like it's got integrity? Yeah. Then I'm doing it. And I think it's reminding yourself of that when you look back, isn't it? That you were doing that in that moment. Yeah,
absolutely. And talk about your concept around rising vibe is the fact that every decision is an emotional decision, isn't it? Hasn't it, or has an emotional impact on you?
yeah.
And actually, it's really okay to feel scared and to feel exposed. And your team look to you for leadership. But at this moment in time, there is no problem with going, I'm sorry, I just don't have the answer to that question right now, as opposed to making it up, because that's when you lose credibility as a leader, and I think all of us I think the most, you want to be respected for the decisions you're making. Look, at this moment in time, I don't think many people can be liked. That becomes a different element that you have to be concerned about. But I found it, and I found this whole experience incredibly emotional. I've been involved in theatre my whole life, and as much as I understand the driver for survival, I feel it myself, is that, could my business go under at this moment in time? Well, it's not going to go under while I'm still at the helm, because I will do everything that I possibly can in my power to bring my team through this process and come out the other side. But we've been using this analogy of lifeboats, Mayflower ship. We've got lifeboats, and we've got to make sure that we can get as many people in the lifeboat as possible to get us across to dry land. And what we're looking for is additional lifeboats to help more and more people. And furlough actually became a lifeboat for a lot of us. But again, you talk about uncertainty. We know it's going on till October, but at this moment in time, we've got no idea what it's going to look like past July, and how much we as employers are going to be able to contribute to that scheme as well. Yeah. So, and straight away, I've got my colleagues saying to me, "So, what does this mean to us?" I don't know. I have no clarity there whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes back. I think you're absolutely right, Lou, in the fact that what you need to do is look at yourself, and at every stage in this process, say, have I behaved and have I actioned in honesty and with integrity? And as long as you can look yourself in the mirror in the evening and say yes, then I think that's part of the process. And letting your team know that it's tough. I had a team meeting this week on Wednesday, but via Zoom, because we're all living on Zoom at this moment in time, and it's a very two-dimensional experience, whereas you realise just how much you rely on non-verbal communication actually when you're with your team. And I've worked with my team for 8 years, so I know them very well, I would say. And we were talking about, what the planning, where's the next stage forward? I've been on this meeting for about, an hour and 15 minutes. And I just personally got to saturation point. I thought, I cannot think now any further, because I'm not going to make rational decisions here. So I just stopped it. I just called a halt and said, look, let's just wait another day. There's nothing that we need to do before 5 o'clock today that's going to have any major impact on what we do tomorrow. So give yourself 48 hours, let it all just sink in, and then you can come afresh. And that is actually quite liberating as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. So we're talking about, the unknown and bringing clarity where you can with the furlough situation. And I think this has obviously been happening, but as a metaphor for business, the furlough scheme was announced on a Friday, and the team that I'd laid off at this point, because I needed to cut costs straight away. And I said, this is alien. This is what we're going to do from this point. And, the whole thing about being with someone, we were a very tight team. To have to say that to someone on Zoom and not even be able to give them a hug. And that felt so cold, and for me to follow HR process. I don't like process. I like a framework. I feel very constrained. So I felt very robotic almost. It didn't feel like me in that. But of course, the rules for furlough kept changing. And I have a lot of admiration actually for the fact that the government are doing as much as they can to get, and I know this will impact the economy and we don't know what that'll be like, but I'm trying to stay in the present. What I found really unhelpful though, was giving a bit of information, everyone having hope, and then it was, but we're not sure we're going to be able to do that because it might still cost us money.
Mm.
Right. Oh, and then the rules changed again. Right. Okay. But we're still not clear about this, this, and this. For me, and I know it's not easy, I'm not saying this is straightforward, but sometimes it's better to wait until you can deliver explicit clarity or more clarity than drip feeding that in, because that was actually quite damaging in our business to some of the relationships, because some of the guys in the team had heard some news, were then suggesting that we weren't doing it because we didn't want to do it, not because actually it might have cost us money. So it did really drive some distrust. So I don't know, what's your view on that? Drip feeding information or just waiting a bit? I know there's no right or wrong right now, but
it's true. I mean, from our position, it's all about the relationship with producers. And I had this initial reaction. I never dreamt that we would be closed for the period of time that we've been closed. In all honesty, I don't know if that was naivety, but anyway, I didn't. And in our scenario planning, we looked at, can we open in September? Crikey, are we going to be open for Christmas? And now we're looking, could this be 21? Could we actually physically be closed for a year? And in the spring program that I had, I prioritized moving those shows into the September, October, November period. So, and I'm now looking at that going, I might have to move these shows again. We might not be open again. So that lack of, as you say, the not having all the information to hand is having a major impact on our business, because I'm kicking the can down the road. Because what I'd prefer, and I'm sure we'd all prefer, is 1st of January, Michael, you can reopen your theatre. Great, I can work to that. I know what the planning for that is. But my worry is that, 3 weeks ago, I'm not a betting man, but if I had to put some money down on it, I would have said we'd be open in September. Now, with social isolation, which would not work for us as a theatre, just because the scale of the operation and the reduction in capacity for audiences that would attend, we'd go from a 2,200 seat theatre down to about a 600 seat theatre if you had to do social isolation. It just wouldn't. The maths doesn't work. So now I could be looking at January, and then the messaging that you were giving back in March to your staff changes completely. And it goes back to my point around communication. I do a weekly update email to all of my staff that are on furlough, well, to all the staff, but so the people on furlough can be communicated with. And I'm honest with them, and I tell them that this is the state of play where we are at this moment in time. Some of that information is confidential because it's around deals with producers and whatnot. But in that process, things that I said last week have changed in 4 or 5 days. So as a leader, how do you plan for that? How do you mitigate your position when you don't know what the end result is? And we're not in a widget business. We don't make product. We facilitate a good evening. We facilitate an opportunity for people to go and escape and get away from the reality of their life and sit in the dark with a load of other people, for 2 hours or whatever it might be. And in this world that we are in at this moment in time, how many people are genuinely going to have a desire at some point in the next 6 months to go and sit in a darkened room, a foot away from somebody else, where invariably in theatre people cough a lot. That's the reality.
I feel like coughing now just because you mentioned it.
Yeah, exactly right. So we are, and some of our research is suggesting that people are saying that until there's a vaccine, we're not returning to theatre. That's scary. I mean, we're not only dealing now, I think, with a crisis, not just us now, I'm talking about us as a country. We're not dealing with a crisis that's happening immediately, only a crisis that's happening immediately. This is going to have ramifications for years to come, I believe. I think in our industry, the touring presentations that we put on, this is going to take us years to recover from, because we've got to build people's confidence back up to come into the theatre again.
Yeah. This whole thing about kicking the can down the road, and I think sometimes, way before COVID was even on the radar, I speak to a lot of my clients when they're communicating a change, and potentially the impact is not going to feel great for the team. And what I get a sense of most of the time is holding back a little bit because we don't want to upset people, we don't want to scare them too much. Where actually, in my opinion, it is much better to go to worst possible case scenario, because we tend to go there anyway as human beings. We're hardwired to scan for danger, to look for problems. And, you know, let's check in around lockdown after 3 weeks. That for me gives people false hope. Yeah. And I know that I've been saying to people, well, I actually am preparing myself to not be getting back to any semblance of new normality until post-summer. And people saying, oh my God, don't say that. And I'm saying, well, I'm preparing myself for that. Because then actually, if anything beforehand, it's going to be a surprise. It will be a pleasant surprise. And I'm managing my own expectations. And there's this fear often, we don't want to worry people. So we won't give you everything. We'll hold a little bit back. We'll phase it, which gives people hope. The intention is so positive, but it's really unhelpful. I mean, I don't know what your view is on that.
But that feeds into my process of radical candour, which I think is
talk to us about
right.
that. Yeah, talk to us about radical candour.
Yeah, because it's something that we've introduced over the last kind of 18 months into our business, and it's around the honesty of a conversation, but structuring the honesty in a supportive way. And exactly to your point, Lou, is that giving people false hope is unfair, and it doesn't help them in the long run. And there are times, whether that's in people's performance or whether it's in the way that they live against your values, you must be honest and open and feed back to them around their level of performance and how that is impacting their colleagues. And there's a narrative in the Radical Candour book around a lady that introduced this concept, saying that, you know, she had to sack a colleague. And she had to sack a colleague because he hadn't been performing. And his response to her was, why did you never say to me before that I wasn't reaching the expectations that you'd set? I think that was the moment when she realised that actually you've been completely unfair to that individual because you've not given them the opportunity to make good their failings. And sometimes we don't know when we're failing either. You know, there's sometimes where you think that you're acting in the best interests, and until you get another bit of information, going back to our comment around what we're planning at this moment in time. So yes, I mean that's the way that we've approached our interactions with our colleagues at work, and it's challenging. I mean, having challenging conversations are difficult at the most moment in time, but it's very liberating, because if you do it in the right supported way, people respect you far more for it. And going along, you know, this world that we're in now, you know, we also have to be a bit kinder to each other. You know, I know this has been a narrative that's been developing over the last, I don't know, maybe a year or so, but I was looking at there was this piece of advice that came out, I think it came out of Canada, where it was giving these kind of 6 or 7 key messages around what we are doing at this moment in time. And the first one was, you know, people say we're working from home, but you're not working from home. You're working in your place where you live normally in a period of crisis. So how can you possibly perform to your optimum with what we're dealing with at this moment in time? And I think, you know, one of the things I keep saying to my staff is just forgive yourself, because you're not going to hit the high standards, and I'm not going to expect you to hit the high standards that your team would normally present to me, because you're not together. You're working off your kitchen desk, or you're working out of your conservatory or whatever. It's not real. It's not well, it is a reality, but it's not the way that we should normally run our business. And so having the ability to be actually open and honest and say, do you know what, today you're not feeling it because I've got factors where I've got 3 teenage kids that live in with me at this moment in time, and actually sometimes they have to be a priority for me.
Yeah.
And if I want to lead by example, I have to be honest and say to my staff, well, you need to reprioritize that as well. And a wonderful moment on an ETM executive team meeting last week, where one of my team went, they suddenly a Hoover came up in the background, and she went, I'm really sorry, that's my son and he's hoovering. And we're all parents, and we've all got teenage kids. We went, what, your 16-year-old son hoovering? Do not stop him. Do not
That is
stop him.
amazing. Yeah. There is
Absolutely
benefits
right.
to this thing. There is benefits.
Exactly right. But that's our real life, isn't it? That's the situation that we found ourselves in. So yeah, I mean, look, if I have a message to myself as well, because I say I want to live by that example. You know, I take this to heart too much. I think at times, you know, people talk about the fact that we've got 7 days and we're missing weekends. We were talking about this, weren't we, a little bit earlier on?
Yeah, we were.
But it all merges into one. But actually, you need to grab those moments and try not to think about it, because actually working from home isn't starting at 7 o'clock in the morning and still being on your emails at 9 o'clock at night. You're not being productive in that period of time. You have to remove yourself from it, and you have to enable your team to do the same thing. Because if you're sending emails at 10 o'clock at night, then they think that's the role model. They think that's how they should be behaving. And that isn't. You're not being fair then.
No, absolutely. So in terms of being explicit during the unknown, you've given some great examples there, which are actually really simple, which I think a lot of people are not thinking about, which is contacting your guys working from home and saying, just so you know, just for clarity, I'm not expecting the same level of performance results output. That, you know, to get really explicit, you might say, what I am expecting is this, not this, right? But the fact that you said that, I wonder how many people are actually saying that. What I'm getting a sense of is that some of the themes coming out from a lot of the clients that we're working with are, there's a bit of a breakdown in trust between some people who are still doing the job in the operation, because there's some, you know, there are some industries where people are still going in, distancing, but still having to go out and about, and other people working from home. And that has started to break down trust and connections, because the people are going out, are feeling fearful about being out and having to keep distance, but actually the controls aren't good enough and we don't feel like we're being looked after. They're all right, they're working from home. Then you've got the people working from home going, actually, I'd rather be out there, some of them. I'm trying to homeschool my child. My husband's been made redundant and actually he's really miserable. I'm not set up properly for home working. I'm working from my kitchen table. And people are saying, what actually is Lou doing? Actually, I'm working all the hours because I feel like it's relentless. So I think that lack of misunderstanding is going on. So if you think about, you could be really explicit around that.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, we've got staff that are on furlough that, you know, the system we put in place at the moment in time is that we're paying staff 100%. Although we're only getting 80% back from the government. And there will be a period of time where that will be unsustainable, but it was the decision that we made back in March, is the fact that we wanted to give people some level of protection. But I've then got staff that are now, say, still in the business that are working, that are still being paid the exact same amount of money as those people that are being furloughed. And what you've got to try and make people understand is that actually the choice that we made to furlough you was about protecting the business. It had nothing to do with your value to the business. And I think sometimes people find that quite difficult to understand. And it's a nuanced argument, isn't it? But you do have to make people appreciate the fact that they are appreciated and they are required and they are needed. And the roles, that 80% that we're claiming back off the government is that lifeboat. It's one of the lifeboats that we need to keep ourselves going forward. You know, and you know, I think the other thing that I would say is that you also need to be very kind to people, because you're coping, or you appear to be coping in one way and performing quite well, not in that way. And we talk about the fish, the concept of fish, you know, and which is, you know, four elements to the fish principles, which is, you know, have fun, choose your attitude, you know, play and make their day. And the biggest one of that is choose your attitude. In this moment in time, we can choose the attitude that we're going to get through this together and be positive around it. But actually, you know, sometimes it's all right to choose an attitude that isn't good, that you can have a day when it's all right to turn around and say, you know, this is tough. Today is really hard for me. And being able to honestly say that to your colleagues, because then you get the support network in.
Absolutely.
I think, you know, that's the, I think people will remember really clearly how they were dealt with by their businesses through this process. And we've heard some horror stories out there, you know, people being sacked via Zoom and, you know, whatever. And I think there's no question at all we're going to come out of this. Our economy is going to be in a very different position when we come out the back of this. but I think we will also learn who our friends were and are through this process. And I find that with my stakeholders, those people that have reached out and had a phone call and said, how are you doing? Because actually now, I mean, people say it, but when you say the question out to people, how are you doing? We mean it, you know, how are you?
Yeah.
As opposed to just being a kind of, how are you doing? You know, we actually genuinely care about people. And I just hope that we keep that intention going forward, because I genuinely care about the staff that I've got working for me still, and the pressure that they're under.
Yeah.
But my business would not survive if it wasn't for that kind of hardcore team of about 25 that are going beyond the call of duty at this moment in time, and actually just dropping into their Zoom meetings now and again and just saying thank you for what you're doing, and make sure that your colleagues know how grateful we are for what you're doing as well.
Yeah, that piece about, again, you think about just the explicit, being very explicit around, this is because we can't afford to have you in the business right now, because your role is right now can't be utilized because we can't function like we used to. It's not about you as a human being and as a person and anything to do with your performance. It's to do with, I think some of that has not been happening. I also think there's a lot of people out there who are really aware that people will remember how they were treated. And I think that is instilling a lot of fear in people. Because actually, what I've noticed, you know, we talk about emotion, and your point, Michael, about it's okay not to feel okay. That is one of our principles. You know, telling someone to calm down will never help them calm down. Telling someone to be positive when they're feeling despair is actually going to help them feel more despairing, that kind of thing. You know, it's about really being honest about how you're feeling. But I know for sure that, like I said, I've second guessed myself throughout this completely, but there have been times when I have dealt with something as I would in the normal world, because some things have happened, and the conversations I've had them because that's how I show up, that's how I lead, that's what I do, but have felt very uncomfortable because of the situation. But what I've also done is been really explicit about how I'm feeling about it. You know, I've been triggered by a few comments on social media from some of the team, and I've recognized that completely could be my stuff. But I had a couple of sleepless nights around it. You know, that whole, is that a dig? Is that because, you know, I've not met anyone in my career who says, do you know what, I love not knowing what people really mean. I love second guessing. I love laying in bed and going, I wonder if that was about me, or was it? So what I do, and I've always done this, I made contacts and I said, look, this could be my stuff. This could completely be my crap, but this has really triggered me and I just want to explore it. And actually, one of the times I explored it, there was some stuff going on. It wasn't actually a loaded comment, but I could sense there was something going on, and it meant we had a great conversation. But that kind of stuff is really important to me, and as a brand, that's what we do. But it doesn't happen all the time. And right now, I think people are so scared, especially leaders, about getting it wrong, and people saying really negative things about the organization or that. And there are some stuff going on that's really, really abhorrent, right? There is. I think that is the minority. My sense is most people are trying to do the best they can, not knowing how to manage this, and actually not ever really having to have emotional conversations with people before. And now they're being forced to, and they're going, oh my God, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And we have so my senior executive team, which is a team of 6, including myself, within the wider leadership team, which includes there's about 18 on that team. And most of them are still in the business, but about half a dozen are furloughed. And we've been really keen to make sure that they join the leadership team briefings 3 times a week as a training exercise, I say so, because they're not actually contributing to the business at all. But it's really important they understand what's still going on in the business, because if not, what you don't want to be is not in that journey. And I know exactly what you mean by that. You know, hopefully, whether you're misunderstanding or misinterpreting a comment around what's being said, but being able to directly deal with it, I think, is really key. Don't let it stew, because invariably you'll find that actually it wasn't intended, or they didn't realise that you were going to see it. That could be another issue.
It was actually not really about what you might have perceived it to be about, but there was something going on that actually was useful to explore. But a lot of us shy away from that, especially when we're feeling the pressure ourselves. And, you know, there've been a couple of times I've just wanted to run away and hide, actually. Going, God, I do this for a living. I talk about this stuff for a living. Oh my God, you know, the humiliation. I'm going to have no credibility left. Do I even know what I'm supposed to do anymore? Should I be doing this stuff? I mean, it's it's been huge. But
Yeah.
that going first and saying, I'm struggling, that impacted me in this way. I'm not blaming because it could be me. I just need to talk about
Yeah. And I think that's actually interesting, isn't it? The fact that we do have insecurities as leaders, we do question ourselves, and I think you surround yourself with the best possible people because they challenge you and they make you better at your job. And if you stop asking yourself questions and if you stop self-analyzing, then I think the danger is that you will actually stop moving the business forward. And I've often said this, is that, you know, in my career path, when I've made the moves that I've made, they've invariably been because I felt that I've taken that element of the job that I was doing, I've taken it as far as I possibly can, and I need to have a new challenge. But that business also would benefit from somebody else coming in now and looking in fresh eyes.
it.
But no matter what training you do, nobody could be prepared for a pandemic. Nobody would have known. You know, there was no. It's not as if you can pull something off the shelf. All right, pandemic, and have a look at. Oh, this is what you do as a leader in pandemics. You know, we are just so out of our comfort zone at this moment in time. And but I you know, this is a lot about trust. It's about trusting that your team around you are going to ask you the right questions, but also I tend to quite a lot now, after I've had a conversation in Zoom, we'll open with a, am I making myself clear? And invariably that's not because I don't think I've had clarity of purpose of what I've said. It's giving people an opportunity to question what you've just said. You know, and I think that's really important. And it goes back to my point I made about non-verbal communication, is that, you know, when you're sat in a meeting room, who are the people in the room that actually are on board, have understood the story, you know, the narrative that you've just developed, or those people that maybe just need to ask another question. And you don't have this two-dimensional is not the same, is it? It doesn't feel
No, it
the
isn't
same.
No, it doesn't.
And you don't have the nuance of a conversation in the same way, you know. So yeah, I think the vulnerability of this is very exposing. But I genuinely think that I look at myself, I analyze myself and go, I will be a better leader when I come back out of the back of this. I will have learned so much around how I cope in stressful situations, and what people look to in a leader. I mean, you could probably go have another whole session about leadership and management, can't you? But, you know, I think true leaders hopefully inspire their team. And what I look for at every moment is an opportunity for my team to question why I'm doing what I'm doing, but do it in a supportive manner. Nobody likes to be questioned when it exposes them, but when you're questioned to make you analyze yourself, that becomes a really powerful tool. And as I say, I think off the back of this, I hopefully will be a better man manager, but also a better leader.
Yeah. And actually, you know, just finishing up on the theme of being explicit with all this unknown, I could list explicitly what I have learned. You know, that is my default that I have taught myself. I've practiced it. When I go to, you know, a place of anxiety or catastrophizing and things happen out here that I can't control, I will quite quickly now, it's got quicker over the years, say to myself, okay, feels crap, wasn't ideal, what are you going to learn from that? What are you going to learn from that? Sometimes in the moment I'll get the learning, sometimes not immediately, but I'll go, okay, what's the learning? And then a couple of days later I'll go, right, okay, what would I have done differently? What was my part in that? Sometimes you might not have a 50-50 part in it, but you'll always have a part in it, right? So if you can identify the part in it, and even if in the moment you've made a decision that you then in hindsight go, that wasn't the right decision, you can even learn from, but actually, did I make the decision based on what I knew? Yeah, I did. So actually I've learned that it's okay to do that, and then later on it not be okay in these kind of situations. There's always learning to be had. And I think for me, that has helped me with this. That has helped me stay high vibe. That has helped me, you know, I haven't been elated and joyous at all, but I've felt calm and focused much more often than I thought I would, because I am focusing on what am I learning now about this that will help me and the business in the future. That has, and we can all be explicit about that if we choose to.
Absolutely right. And going back to your work is, you know, I'm looking forward to the day where I feel euphoric again. You know, that's the aim, isn't it? Is the fact that when you go back in, and there will be a moment when I go back into my theatre and go, actually, right, this is the next step in that journey, but I will be able to start being the affirmations that will need to come out of the back of it. Because, you know, what we are doing at this moment in time is we are messaging all the things that we can't do. And at some stage, we need to change that narrative of all the things that we can do.
Yeah.
And I think, to a way, I think that's, you know, whether you agree with it or not, I can see the government's logic in what they're doing at this moment in time, which is actually starting for people to stop being scared and to see there is a light at the end of this tunnel. But it's very difficult when people are still dying, isn't it? And it's, for us, it's still difficult when I haven't got an audience, I haven't got shows on stage, you know. And sorry, I'm not equating people dying in the same way.
No, I know you're not. No,
clumsy analogy, but you know what I mean. It's that's what defines you as an individual. You know, whenever I'm introduced to people, it's invariably Michael Ockwell, Chief Executive of Mayflower Theatre. That's what people know me for, you know. And I always get an emotional reaction to that, which is invariably positive, where people go, "God, you must have a great job." And I say, normally I do. But at this moment in time, I wouldn't say this is the best job in the world to be having.
No.
I really wouldn't. But I don't know if anybody would be.
No. And I think eventually, because I truly believe, you know, I hate the false positive gratitude stuff. I love feeling positive and grateful when it's real for me. But I genuinely believe the opportunity and possibilities that will come from this. And I think all of us, and I already can list quite a lot of things that would say, if it wasn't for lockdown, I wouldn't have learned that.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for lockdown, I wouldn't have done that. If it wasn't for lockdown, I wouldn't have actually taken action on that thing or tried that new thing. Or, you know, I'm just thinking about my mum. She listens to this. I love to talk about your mum. It's a great example, metaphor example. She is really anti online stuff, and, you know, will not do online banking. And we said, "Mum, I'm doing your shopping. I'm not going to get cash out. They're saying to avoid cash. You need to learn to." She was really stressed about it. She did it. Now she's all over it. We would never have got her to do it because I wouldn't have been able to enforce that rule with my mum before. And I think a lot of that is happening for us, which is just the evidence of holding people to account and saying explicitly, you have to do this. There's no other way right now. Means we're learning new things.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And on a personal note, it's really interesting you talk about that, because my mum, who lives up in Scotland, so lives, you know, miles away from us, she a bit like your mother, she hates online stuff, and she also won't do WhatsApp, and she won't do, you know, Skype, and she won't do Zoom. And so anyway, we organised a family quiz, and got all my cousins. There was, you know, about 12 households. I think we're all living in Quizland, aren't we? That's been one of the
Actually,
things.
I've not done one. I've not done one. I've not done that. Yeah,
you don't know what you're missing. But anyway, so my mum with my sister goes on Zoom, and she's suddenly realising that she can see all her grandchildren, she can see me, she can see my sister, and it was a revelation for her. She went, "Oh my goodness!" So yeah, there's a learning point off the back of this. I have discovered, you know, I've got 3 teenage kids, and we've been in lockdown for now 8 weeks, and genuinely have, you know, done it very, very seriously. And what I've realised, that actually there's a lot of skills my kids have got that I didn't know, because we're suddenly spending more valuable time. We sit down every day and have a meal together. It's brilliant. You know, we wouldn't have done that necessarily previously. And I'm learning more about my kids, which is just wonderful, you know. I mean, there is absolutely, you've got to look at the positives, haven't you? There's lots of things that will come out of the back of this that we will. What I'm not going to do, I'm looking forward to, is when I get back into the theatre, whatever it is, and next year, all of these shows that will be sent to me, which, you know, Lockdown the musical, and, you know, My Life in Lockdown. I'm just thinking, I don't think anybody's going to want to watch this on stage.
I don't think anyone will be up for that. I've got to say, I don't think that's going to be a money earner.
Absolutely right. If you see that on the Mayflower Theatre, you can write to me personally and say, "What the heck were you thinking of, Ockwell?"
You didn't actually need to tell me that explicitly, because I would have just done it anyway. But I appreciate the explicit permission for me to do that. So the last question I'm going to ask you is the one we like to end with, which is, if life could take you on any tangent, where would you go?
I've been thinking about this. It's weird. One of the irony that I find at the moment is, I started my career when I left school. I went and worked for a well-known supermarket for the first 5 years before I went to drama school. And the irony I think about it is that my tangent could have been that I could have been a very wealthy man in lockdown period if I'd stayed in supermarkets, if I'd actually stayed in providing people food, because my goodness me, hasn't supermarkets done very well? I mean, really well. I mean, I think my tangent would be, you know, I talked about being an actor, and I musically I was rubbish. I mean, absolutely rubbish. And I wish that I've been able to learn a musical instrument, because I see, using music now as an escape, and I have, music on in my background when I'm working, and that ability to take you somewhere and just transport you somewhere else is just wonders. What I love about my job actually is about the fact that people go and sit in a theatre and they escape for however long, out of the stresses and strains. And I think, so my tangent would have been absolutely to go and become a musician, but I would never made any money out of it because I was rubbish. But that sense of being able to explore your own individuality through creation, I just admire people hugely that have that creativity in them.
Nice, I like it. And I guess just to finish, what would be your request to the public, in terms of the arts? What do you need from us? I mean, I really genuinely know that I'm missing it. I've got shows booked at the Mayflower, and they've been postponed, and that's fine. And of course, we all understand. What's your request? What would be your ask?
I suppose what I would say is, don't ever forget the emotion, the feeling that live theatre can give you. I mean, it's been brilliant that so much has gone online over the period of the lockdown, and there's been great theatre, but actually theatre relies on a link and a connectivity between a performer and an audience member live, and you actually sitting with another audience, and you will never experience that same experience again. The next night it will be different. So people are saving lives at this moment in time. Theatre is by far and away the least important thing in people's lives. But when we come out of this, please go back and engage, not just with Mayflower Theatre, any piece of live entertainment, because artists are our lifeblood. And as a society, if we don't value education and we don't value culture, then what have we got, really? So, don't forget how brilliant live theatre can make you feel.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm definitely not going to forget it. Thank you ever so much. We could just chat for hours, couldn't we? Well, we did. We knew we could do that, yeah. We could go off all over the place. So thank you ever so much for joining us. Thank you for listening to this, and I will be back with the next one in a few weeks. So take care. See you later. Thanks,
Cheers,
Michael.
thanks, Lou. Bye-bye.